course, you shouldn't judge the book by its cover, but we do.
Storytelling is one of the most important skills to have.
Do you solve something that is needed? And does this add any utility? There is some narratives that we kind of like instantly like discard.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Nalikes Podcast. I'm Talha Asif, and in each episode, we bring you insightful conversation with the founders and builders who are shaping the future of Web3. Our goal here is to educate and inspire founder while showcasing what other successful founders are doing for their projects and startup in the Web3 space. Make sure you watch till the end as you learn practical and actionable steps that you can apply to your products or startups today. Today's guest is Tim. He's the founder of Lunar Strategy, which is one of the leading crypto marketing agency in the space. Thank you so much, Tim, for coming on. How are you today?
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm happy to be here today.
Amazing, Tim. So, Tim, the whole reason I'm doing this podcast is I want to create a centralized source for founders where they can learn everything about product development, marketing, fundraising, everything in one place. So, we have covered a lot of topics in the previous episodes like fundraising, sales, product development, go-to-market. One thing that I haven't discussed yet, and you will be like one of the first one to talk about, is marketing. So I thought of, who better to bring on marketing than you guys. So in this episode, we'll be discussing, how is the current state of Web3 marketing, and I want to make sure that we share practical and actionable steps for Web3 founders in either in DeFi, in gaming, or whatever in Web3 space. What can they do to improve their project? So we'll discuss that. But before we do that, I want to learn more about your background, because I think if people can learn what you have done and what makes you capable of suggesting Web3 marketing. So I think it's best we share your background. So please tell us, who is Tim before Web3?
Yeah, absolutely. So I first got into crypto 2017. Me and my brother were actually mining like Ethereum in our basement, and we were like experimenting a bit with it and working on the normal day job on marketing. So back then I was first freelancing for different marketing gigs. This was outside of Web3. It was mostly tech related. This was like 2017, 2018, 2018 kind of. And then I moved to Portugal in 5.5 or almost 6 years ago now. I moved here to Lisbon, and then I started working at Google. So for Google's advertising support, and we're working with like paid marketing. And then we're freelancing still on the side and continue to kind of like venture into crypto. And then we had initially a few ICOs that were like, hi, we need help with marketing. And what happened then very quickly, this was almost 4.5 years ago, was I said like this, let's quit the job, jump into to marketing fully. And then at the beginning, it was a little bit of SaaS companies as well, because it's kind of quite closely aligned. But then there was one day where I said like this, I actually let go of quite a few SaaS clients, and I was like all in on crypto. So crypto marketing is the only thing we are going to do here going forward. And then for the last years, we have been doing PR, KOL marketing, social media, strategic fundraising as well, for very closely aligned, a lot of design work, for in total a little bit more than 200 projects in the crypto space. Some of them are like ICP, Polkadot, Multiverse, and OKX, and a lot of the leading exchanges in the ecosystem. So yeah, right now we have a team of like a little bit more than 25 people, primarily based in Lisbon, and today we support projects with marketing and go to market.
Very nice. Very nice. I have a few fundamental questions. Why marketing? Let's take SaaS out of it. Let's take Web3 out of it. Why you as Tim, as an individual, decided that marketing is something I want to focus on? What was that why? Is it something that you thought, okay, this is something that really helps promote projects, or is there a personal reason? Why marketing?
So marketing, why it started, I think it goes down to storytelling and telling stories. That I've always been very like excited and fascinated about. So because that's what marketing comes down to. Like, you can put it in a nice way, which is like to take a great idea that can improve and add value to the marketplace, and then as a marketeer, your goal is to tell the story in a convincing way and make sure that you can grow the users, attract more capital, and to basically take the idea and take it to the full extent of it. So at the core of marketing, how I view it is like growth, and it's like, so the goal is to take an idea, fine tune it, and get the messaging right, and then afterwards find the different tools, channels, and ways to get it properly to market.
This is very interesting. I was reading this book called The Storytelling Animal. I'm not sure if you've read this book, but in this book, it talks about that even like a couple of 100 years ago, the one who was in the tribe who could tell stories was the one that had the most power, which means that he can, get some people to do something, or he can influence people. So I think that is something in your case as well, that storytelling is one of the most important skills to have, and that can, help change nations, or improve companies. So very interesting, amazing. My second question, Tim, is that why did you decide to become a founder? I mean, you could have you could have kept doing marketing for other basically companies as a freelancer. Why decide to take on the trouble of becoming a founder? And what can you share with other people who are deciding to become a founder? Because if I were to share advice with other people, that don't become a founder, because it looks easy, it's that shiny thing, but once you get into that, you realize how difficult it is. So please share your experience on that.
Yeah. So I think when I kicked it off initially, it was like on the freelance basis. You take on more and more clients, and when you do something well, you get more referrals, you get more people excited about it. So I think at the end of the day, I was working like 14, 15 hours a day, like 7 days a week. It was like around the clock, work. And then you have this then you're in the position where, like, okay, so you have two options. One is like you scale down and you say no to a lot of clients, or I think like myself, I was very focused on like, okay, so how can I grow this, and how can you build something business around it? So what I did was I hired a first person to support with different parts, and then you build up the structures and the SOPs and the workflows to scale it up and to bring in a new person. So at the beginning, it was, as a freelancer, I got to the point where 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, my girlfriend was like going crazy about it. Like, Tim, why do you only work? And then, getting one person to help. And then it kind of just catapulted from there. And then it's still a lot of work, but like when you have
it wasn't intentional for you to become a founder?
No. It was more, it kind of grew into that. Yeah.
Last question before we move on to discussing Web3 marketing. What keeps you going? What's your why? Is it money? Is it helping Web3 projects, or is it just building a big business? What's your actual why? I'm sure you're familiar with the concept of start with why, right?
Yeah. On the crypto side, like when you're in the bear market in the crypto space, everybody here that have been in crypto for some time knows it. You see the future. Everybody on the news sites are like, crypto is dead. It's going under, it's going down. It's just down from here. It's just getting darker. A lot of influencers say like, okay, so Bitcoin is going to 10,000, 8,000. And what keeps you like as a founder going is, of course, like you have a team. You have a lot of responsibility of the people around. And I also remember like in the bear market, there was a lot of companies that were approaching you to hire you. And I remember I saw like on LinkedIn, like a few like job offers, like as a head of marketing, and they offer like 200K, 300K plus equity, and quite crazy offers. And as an agency, then we were making much less profitable during like the bear market. But what kind of was the key part is, of course, the team. You have a lot of responsibility, a lot of people around you that, well, rely on you. And then, of course, it's fun. It's fun. Like I enjoyed being on the battlefield of ideas in the crypto space.
One thing I never really understood was that, you know what we do, right? We do product development. So if clients want something, they will exactly get that. So there isn't any uncertainty. The only problem might be it might get delayed. There might be some features missing, but at the end of the day, we'll deliver what we results. But on the other hand, on marketing, you're really not sure what kind of results you will get, right? So how do you deal with that when it comes a client, and you're scoping out what they need to be done? I mean, how do you guarantee that you'll get the outcome, right? Because when we got into this space, right, clients were coming to us to do marketing as well. We did some projects, but we realized that we're not good at it. We should just focus on what we're good at. So how do you handle that? Like expectation, because again, a lot of founders or a lot of marketeers that want to come in Web3 might be thinking, how can we commit a result or commit an outcome when we really don't know what to expect?
Marketing goes down to a few different parts that are within your control and other parts that are outside of your control. And as a marketeer, it's hard to like, if I could give you the deal, okay, so you invest 200,000 into marketing, I can guarantee that you will get $1 million of buying pressure or fundraising. If I could guarantee that to everybody, then why wouldn't I launch 50 products myself, as an example? So when it comes to guarantees, then for example, what we had done quite a bit early this year, especially, was KOL fundraising. And then we just took like a success fee on the amount of funds that we raised. It's quite clear, like we take X%, you get this, fair deal. On the Lunar Labs side, which is our accelerator, then we take a success fee on the launch as well, which is much more aligned with, okay, so we help you around launch, we help you build this amount of treasury coming from the market maker combined with these exchanges. Very clear, like we help you get this, we take a percentage of that. Super clear. So fundraising, incubation, quite clear. Marketing is quite different if we just take like normal KOLs and PR or X or social media management. At the end of the day, marketing is a ROAS focused business. Like you invest in marketing because you're looking for a return. The question is also like what time frame. A lot of marketing in the early stages is to build up a brand so that you have the right, let's say, external validation signals that can attract investors, that can attract partners, and that can attract, let's say, people to commit TVL to your ecosystem. So when it comes to like the PR, then on some parts you can be very specific, having a success fee in place. But when it comes to like PR or social media management, it's more down to like creating the brand and then getting it in place there. And then it's hard to say, for this you will get this. We can show you cases. For example, for another ecosystem, we spent let's say 500,000 on KOLs. We managed to grow the TVL from 24 million to 48 million. So we almost doubled the TVL in 90 days. And then comes the question, okay, so how much was that was us versus how much was the incentives that they paid extra to the people that committed TVL? And then you have to kind of like estimate like a percentage of how much was your contribution versus how much was like the right incentives in place, and also how much was other parts. So a lot of nuances that goes into it. We try to work with success fee in a lot of ways because it's fair, and for us, a lot of the success fees are can be very good in a good market, and when you have done a good job.
Amazing. Now I want to move towards the people that are watching, or the founders. I mean, there are a lot of founders Someone is looking to fundraise, someone is looking to develop their product, someone is looking to figure out how they can get more use to a project. And more I talk with founders, I realize this is the main core problem that they haven't been able to figure out yet. So, but before we get that, let's take a holistic view of what is the current state of Web3 market. I had a couple of founders on who talked about the airdrop meta, like KOL shoutouts. There are a couple of strategies that are working. Let's talk about what are the strategies that are working, and what strategies can founders take from this podcast and start applying. Like, let's talk about like what's working in Web3 in terms of marketing, right?
So we've been from 2019. I think we were running our first airdrop campaign in 2020. We're super early there, and I think the campaign went completely viral and that grew a lot. Last year, people started using Galaxy, Layer 3, Sealy to boost followers. Kind of catapulted everything very quickly. It grew, but then it got overused. Then we saw people using point systems, where you got points for an airdrop farming.
I think Blast did a really good job, and Portal Coin, these two projects, I think really did well.
Right now, they're down 95%.
Oh, so it's not sustainable, you were saying?
Well, here's where it comes into like what the structure, like a Portal Coin down. We don't have to go into specific projects, but they're down a lot. And then people like use the same thing. Then you try to with referrals. Then they try to do now with the Telegram mini apps, and they do like a hamster combat.
Yeah.
So in the crypto space, it's always like similar methods that are being reused in different ways, and you need to be really on the ball. Some of the campaigns where we have seen like the strongest effectiveness right now has been a lot of token swaps. Ton Foundation did a very big swap with Mochaverse, for example, 20 million, where they cross promote between the two ecosystems. So you kind of like swap $20 million worth of tokens between the two ecosystems. You do some strategic airdrops and incentive campaigns internally, and you kind of like cross-align two ecosystems together. That's something that currently is we have seen quite a few products do it really well. Earlier this year, it was a lot of node sales. We supported quite a few of them. Some of the biggest ones that did super well was Aether, Carve, Tabby. But then it kind of goes into like over like too many nodes, and then it goes back. So like as a marketeer, you have to be on the ball, like to see like where do we stand right now, and then you need to forecast where are we going to be in like 2-3 months from now, based on the current trend. And then internally we have like a weekly workshop, monthly workshop, where we basically have 3 different questions that we ask. One is, what ecosystem currently has the most transactions, TVL growth, and like the wind in their back, so to speak. Right now, Tron, over the last few days, Tron has gone completely vertical. In the past, it was Ton was very strong. Base, we kind of like want to understand those narratives as well, that are on a high level. Then it also comes down to like what are the narratives within the market, like RWA, AI, Deepin. The meme has started to kind of coming back now on Tron, but like you need to be very much into it so that you can kind of understand like the waves. How are the waves moving in the market? And then afterwards, there's like a mix of maybe like 10 different strategies with like airdrops, like kind of like point systems with cross promotions, like token swaps. And like then you kind of need to use your toolkit in different ways where we are in the market.
Mm-hmm. So if you were to summarize, can you list like what strategies are working these days? Because from what I gather, you're saying that the strategies that currently you are using or the projects you're using have been around for a very long time. If they're executed well, they work. Strategies keep on changing, narrative keeps on changing, chains keep on changing. So you have to be very dynamic. But if you were to summarize, like these are the few things that are working currently and are doing very well, if you can just list them.
Yeah. I think one is just the cross promotion with other ecosystems, um, which is like it doesn't have to always be big amounts, but it can be like let's say with Aether as an example, they are doing a lot of cross promotion with other ecosystems that they airdrop to Aether and node holders, for example. That's one thing that works always well. Marketing advisory tokens is probably that earlier this year it was a lot of KOL rounds, but right now KOLs are not really looking that much to invest in the market. Everybody are kind of like a little bit waiting to what will happen. So right now a lot of what's happening is that the marketing allocation for advisory, which is kind of like you are paying for marketing services with marketing tokens.
Makes sense.
And then it goes back to like the hygiene of like Twitter Spaces or X Spaces and PR and yeah, the traditional parts, because
Got it.
we are right now not super much in the super hype market. So it's a lot of like maintenance and preparing, because the next launch window is probably going to happen soon. So we're kind of like in that phase where we are a lot of waiting.
Got it. I have this question, right? So I understand that these projects that have allocated capital for marketing, they don't really have to worry. But there are so many smaller scale projects that sometimes have a really good product, or they're solving a really good problem, but they don't have that kind of budget, or they themselves don't have the marketing skills, right? Because some of them might be watching right now. What advice do you have? Because I don't really don't know. That's why I'm asking you. Is it really money that really makes or breaks the marketing of a project, or you can be smart and organic about doing marketing? So what are your thoughts on that? If someone who does not really have that much money to market their project, what advice do you have for them? What can they do to grow their project?
So, for example, from our side, we have the Lunar Labs. I know there's a lot of incubators and accelerators out there. The goal of an incubator, or especially here for the early ones, is mostly like an incubator. It's basically to find like the hidden gems out there. And then our goal is to polish them so that they can go out and raise capital, and so that they can go and find the right investors. So from our side, and a lot of incubators out there, if you have a good idea, good product, you have a pitch deck ready, you have a team, like you're maybe a few people that are very like excited and motivated to build something, then this is our bread and butter, what we talk with on a daily basis for the Lunar Lab side. We jump on calls with founders, and then we evaluate, like, do we think that this founder is skilled enough to build a product? Firstly, is this founder strong enough to go out and talk with investors and partners? And does this business make sense? And the business makes sense comes also down to the narratives. Sometimes we might advise them to go with another chain. For example, a product launching on like this chain, maybe we suggest that they go and launch on ICP, for example. On ICP, we can support them with grants if they're like a quality project, or we go to Base, because Base makes sense because of these strategic reasons, or Solana. And as an incubator, we often can support them with developer grants from various ecosystem players as well. Especially for here in Portugal, we have for ICP, we're actually running cohorts. So at our office here, we invite like 10 founders to come to our office and network, and then during like a few weeks sprint, we basically discuss like a go-to-market with them.
Got it.
So you go to market and discuss it.
Got it. So you're summarizing. So if I were to summarize that, if there are founders out there who have an idea of have an MVP, but they don't really know what to do, they don't have that much marketing experience. So you guys have an accelerator with Lunar Labs, and there are a couple of others out there which they can join, which can obviously help them refine themselves, refine their idea, and then they can go there. But if I were to summarize, it all comes down to the founder. you and other incubators invest in the founder, right? If they have the idea, because most of the time what I've learned is that the idea can change, the product can pivot, but the founder is something that stays the same. Amazing. So if you, the takeaway is that become a really invest in yourself as a founder, and you'll become more likely to be funded. Because before crypto, we had a startup where we were solving an AI problem, which was like helping build a sign language translator for deaf people, and we were looking to raise money, and no one was willing to invest in three immigrant students from university with an idea. Even though we had the product skills, they're like, they're not ready yet to go raise money. They're not ready yet to market the product. So I mean, it's good that it did not happen, because if we had raised, then we would have just wasted their money. But it's good. So the takeaway is that invest in yourself, learn as much as you can. Amazing. No, this
There's a few, maybe one or two more tips there. There's a very good book called Founders versus Investors. A very good book. It's more like tech fundraising, and it's basically like one venture capitalist, and then there's a founder that has funded a few different companies. And basically the whole book is to give both sides of the perspective. So the investor gives the VC perspective, and the founder gives the founder perspective. And they have gone through a lot of like the rounds and cycles of it. Very good book to give you like a little bit more understanding of what an VC is looking for. And VCs and of course like incubators work in a very similar way. And it mostly comes down to like a lot. If you have a good idea, a lot of incubators will give you money to just kick it off. And from our side, we support with grants, we support with those things. So you don't need capital per se. If you have a good idea, strong team, and you can convince somebody like us that this is a vision. I'm going to execute on it. Here's where I want to go. We would easily like fund it in different ways. So
yeah. And I think I had a podcast with Roy, who's the founder of Shadow War. They're also a client of ours. They raised 5 million to build a Web3 game. And he shared really, really good insight. It was like fundraising is like dating, which means that when a girl decides to choose a boy, she's ticking boxes. Is he tall enough? Is he rich enough? Is he smart enough? So founders are like, when they're choosing investors, when they're choosing a founder, they're just ticking the boxes, right? Like you said, pitch deck, team, idea, skill set. So just tick as many boxes as you can, and then you'll eventually succeed. Amazing, Tim. So now we covered like what the founders in the seed stage can do, right? So we had good insights for them. Let's talk about founders who have some traction, who have market validation, who have users and some revenue. What are they doing, and what can they do? Most of them, maybe can hire in-house CMO, marketing officer or a marketing team. If I am a founder who is technical, who knows his product well, who might be good at sales, but I don't really know, because marketing and sales are two different things, right? Marketing is to get it out there in the people. What advice do you have for them? Should I go and get an external agency such as yourself and many other out there to come and deliver the result, or should I just learn myself and bring someone on and do that? Because when we work with product teams and when they want to outsource their product development to us, we just ask them clear question, right? Are you technical enough yourself? Because if you're technical enough, then it makes sense for you to have a team in-house, so you can do that. But if you're non-technical, then it's best to give it to an external team, and depending on if you're generating revenue and stuff like that. So what advice would you have for these side of founders?
It comes down to like a lot of different nuances to the story, but if I can just give like my perspective and how we have found it. So I love working with a CMO. If a company has a CMO, of course, because then we speak the same language and we can communicate it very easily to them, that then they can take it internally to their stakeholders. So a CMO is good. We often work with CMOs, and then we kind of work like as an extension. Because if you would just like outline what's the key value proposition of a marketing agency. One, myself and our leadership team has worked with 200 projects. We have very nuanced like strategies, understanding, and like a nuanced perspective on it. We have a partner network. I think we checked it. We have about 100 partners in the ecosystem. Every single market maker, every single exchange, launch pads, we have worked with them. We have seen them in action, security audits, developers. We also come with like a package of like those parts. To build an in-house team can usually be very expensive, and it takes time to build a strong team with social media, PR manager, and I think like on a cost basis, if you want to have like the best PR manager, it's very expensive to get them in-house. Same with the social media manager, and then you also need a KOL manager. On the KOL side, we have been here for 5 years. A lot of these people we have worked with for 5 years, which means that we have good connections, we can get specifically good deals, we understand what content works well with them. And there's a lot of insights that if you as an in-house person kind of are lacking compared to an agency. And a lot of them will not even respond to you because they know that they often prefer working with an agency. I think those are a few key parts. And then I think that the other one that a lot of companies forget is that when it's a bull market, it's very easy to hire, but it also takes like maybe 6 months to build up a team, get them all working together. And then if the market goes down, maybe you need to cut costs. And that's a very volatile situation within a startup. And having an agency, it's quite easy to increase scope, lower scope, depending a bit on where you are. So it can be very like adapted to it. And then we are kind of like out on the battlefield every day. We get insights and kind of like the day-to-day meta, which is very hard for a founder to get, or like for an in-house person to get, because we can see it across different ones. And maybe like the final part would be, we often work with ecosystems. So for example, for Polkadot or ICP, or with we have quite a few ecosystems that we work with, and then we work directly with the treasury DAO. And what happens then is that kind of like the DAO is paying for the marketing for the project. So marketing projects get free marketing from the DAO that is paying for like an ecosystem growth initiative, which means that let's say I'm an ecosystem, I'm a layer 1 ecosystem. I want to drive activity in my ecosystem. That means that what we do is that we create content that says ecosystem A has DeFi, and then we kind of outline all of the top DeFi projects within that ecosystems, and we focus more on, let's say, the layer 1, which is not a project, it's not a team. If we work with a DAO directly, and then we can give free marketing kind of per se to projects because they help the layer 1 that they are building on. So there's a lot of nuances that comes into it.
Got it. If I were to summarize, if you're a founder who already has a CMO, who already has traction, it's best to get an agency in. One is that, if I were to just summarize, right, is that if you hire people and market goes down, then you're in a difficult situation where you might have to let go of people. It's not easy to build a team. It takes time. And then again, instead of just having one person or in-house person, it's best to have an agency because they have so much perspective, because they're working with so many projects. They have so many exposure that they can bring into your project, right? So these are some really good points. Amazing. So if you're a founder, I mean, like the takeaway here is that if you're a founder and if you're trying to grow your project, it's a good idea that you can look at external agency as well. Even if you do it for a short while, right? The experience and the insights they have can really help you. And I think it applies to our space as well when I work with founders, because as a founder, you're just working on one product, right? But we as an agency are working on 10 different products. We bring a lot on 10 different chains as well. So I think that's it. Okay. I have a questions for you, like a problem. So if you were a founder, or if you're put in a position where you have 100K today, okay, in marketing budget, how would you spend it? And my goal, let's say, is to, again, I'll give you more context. I have a consumer-facing product, right? Which means, and there's so many consumer-facing product or gaming projects. What would you spend that money on? My goal is to get paying users that use my app. I know it's vague, but tell me, how would you spend that money?
Okay, so how I first would go at it is depends a bit on, in crypto, a lot of startups are looking for a TGE. The TG is when you launch your token, traditionally an IPO. before that, you need numbers. You need engage, you need TVL, you need active users, you need people that are engaged and love your product. So let's say you have a good product to start with. I would probably invest in hiring a collaboration manager to start with that starts DMing people on X primarily, inviting founders and inviting different potential partners to join in for like a shared Twitter spaces where you can like cross promote it too. I would probably spend maybe like 30-40% of the budget on ambassadors that then would amplify the content that is creating from those X spaces. Then I would probably spend 20% of the budget on PR to do a few case studies. So I would probably, let's say, do an interview with a current user and say that it's like, here is why I like this product. I would do some case study like interviews there, maybe like a few that I would publish in different news sites as sponsored content. And if it's a very, very like unique product, you could probably get organically, but probably sponsored content to begin with, just to kick it off. So here we have like maybe like 20% at the collab manager, 40% on
ambassadors,
on KOLs, ambassadors, 20% back on PR, and then the last part I would probably focus on like a good design studio or a design team to create like an explainer video or to create some content that you can have like as a pinned post on Twitter.
Got it. So
or X, like that you have like a pinned post that outlines what you do.
Got it. So now this strategy works in case when you want to just raise awareness, get people to come to your project, a TGE, right? And that is what we're doing. But let's say if there is a product which is like a SaaS product, right? Because this is something very coming up because people just want to start generating revenue. For example, we have Telegram trading bots. We have a couple of clients that we're working with who have SaaS products, which means that they provide some sort of service for in this case, my goal is to bring paying users, right? If we were doing in any of the space, we have ads and stuff like that. But let's say if I have a Web3 product where I want people to use SaaS and I have validation, right? I have a product market fit. What do I do with that money?
Probably Telegram mini apps like this.
Very interesting.
Hamster combat and those like it's basically like very quickly gamified engagement. Internally, we call it a little bit like a Sealy on steroids because you can so quickly grow and do it because you can sit on your Telegram app and just like click on the app and then it's like gamified within the app. It can drive a lot of user acquisition very, very, very quickly, but the quality comes down to it. If you have a SaaS product, you could also do some sort of an testing airdrop to kind of like the first test for free, kind of like a structure where you will airdrop tokens if you test my product, and then you get like a bonus allocation if you buy more of the product.
Mm-hmm. I see. One question, you brought up a really good point, right? So for the previous case where for the TGE or for the NFT mint or whatever, I spend this much amount of money on collabs, ambassadors, interviews, case studies, design. And it's very likely that I'll attract the wrong kind of audience, the audience that wants free stuff and they want to buy. And this has happened so many times with some of our clients. How do you make sure you don't end up in that situation where you spend 100K, you have 90,000 or 100,000 or whatever number of users, and when the time comes to get your return, they don't buy. So what can I as a founder do to make sure I don't attract these kind of audience? Because this has happened with one of our clients recently, so I'm just curious to know.
So how I view it and what products I use, because I put myself like in the category of we quite often like I probably spend an hour a week testing products, and I think a lot of like the savvy people like can, let's say, invest tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, test products. They like to test what they use, and they like to invest what they're using. So the key thing to get the right sort of people is sending the right signals to start with. And one of the key signals on Twitter or X is who follows your account. And that's it like if I would invest in, let's say, a DeFi platform, I go and look on their X account and I see like, okay, so who of my friends follow who of the people I trust or that I would recommend follow this account. So that's like a signal to me that it's something that is trustworthy. You check on Google, is it trustworthy? You test the product, is it easy to use? Is it like intuitive? So often when you get the wrong sort of a user that doesn't buy, it's something wrong on the product level. It's probably what I would, the product level or the utility level. Because as soon as you have a very like useful product, let's say DeFi on Solana, restaking, as soon as you have a very like sought after solution, that if you do the right marketing, you will attract the right people. So I think like on a deeper level, I think it very, very, very strongly comes down to like, do you have the right product?
Amazing. So if I were to summarize, you're saying, when you as a founder or as a project spend money on getting traction, and you do get traction, but that traction does not convert, it often lies there might be a problem at the product level, utility level, which means that, okay, it's not solving a problem for those users, or it's not engaging enough signals, which means that, okay, they look at who other people are following, right? Because we are mimetic creatures. Are you familiar with that concept of mimetic desires? Yeah, so mimetic is basically the most of the things that we do is because we see someone else doing it, right? So that's a very good point that you brought up, signals. Amazing. Okay, so what do you think are problems that Web3 founders are doing these days, right? Because you have a lot of experience, right? And if I were to give you a project to do a quick audit, you'll point out, okay, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. But I, as a founder, I am so into my product, I'm married to my product, that I see that I'm not doing anything wrong. So can you just quickly highlight what do you think most projects doing wrong? And this is like a recurring thing, which if I were to send you one project now, you'll tell me, okay, change these things, you'll change your product.
So we have internally, we have like three, just like people that are reaching out to products every day, 3 people working full time, and we probably come across probably around 30 deals a week.
Wow.
That gets sent to us on average, on the incubation side primarily. And the first thing we look on is, of course, the X account, because we also work with a lot of the strategic investors that are often content creators. And a content creator would never create content around like an ugly X account. It's a little bit like you could view it like as in a business meeting, you have the suit on, or you proper when you go into like the meeting, like, or the book's cover. Like, of course, you shouldn't judge the book by its cover, but we do. So the first thing is like the Twitter account, like or X account. What does it look good? Have you put some time into the account? Have you put some time into the structure of it? Afterwards, it comes down to like, do you solve something that is needed? And does this add any utility? There is some narratives that we kind of like instantly like discard. Social fi is one example. Social fi is like one of the areas where, and metaverse, we're also very, 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 very skeptical of. NFTs, we have like a list of like buzzwords where we hear them, we're like, probably want to stay out of this. Then, so narrative, does narrative make sense? We have a list of like every month we do like the narrative session where we go into what ecosystems are hot, what narratives are hot, and then we stay away of certain narratives and we want to go into certain narratives. And then we also have the long-term projections where we think that our thesis of where the market is going. So the first thing is like X account, is it there? Second is narrative, does it make sense? Ecosystem, does that make sense? Afterwards, we dig into, are you VC backed? Who are the VCs that are backing you? And why are they backing you? Then we dig into the team. Okay, is it a strong team? And then afterwards, we kind of like internally agree that this is something we want to move forward with. Then we have an internal due diligence person that just like does, it's kind of like a 5-6 hours, quite thorough initial due diligence, which is like you Google the founder, you Google their background, you look them up on LinkedIn, you look them up on X, you maybe see have they launched 3 failed projects in the past. You go into LinkedIn, you go into Facebook, Twitter, search for the founder's name, the leadership team, and the product name to kind of understand like this. jump into their Discord or Telegram chat and see, is it just like bots writing like scam, scam, scam in the Discord? Very big red flag. And then after the due diligence, we have an internal scoring point where we score like the tokenomics, we score the founders, we score the go-to-market, and then basically we decide on it. But yeah, so
Very
that's
nice,
a
very
little bit our way of thinking.
Very interesting. So, I mean, if a founder is watching, they can just get in touch with you and you can tell them, like, what are they doing wrong? Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Cool. One more thing, founder-led marketing. That is a term that I have a good friend, Leon, who's the founder of Unfungible. And he really talks about that. And I do have a podcast coming up with him as well. And I'll talk more on it with him. What are your thoughts on founder-led marketing? Because before, things were different, right? When you're building a startup, it basically, you build a product, you get users, and then basically, then you do the next thing. But these days, things are changing. You first build an audience, then you figure out their pain points, then you build a product, and then you go on. So things are changing. And then founder-led marketing is very important, right? Because people really don't follow your company's page anymore. That's just what I have assumed. They follow who you are as a founder, right? And that is the whole thing I'm doing this podcast as well for my studio as well. So what are your thoughts on that? How important is founder-led marketing, especially for Web3 startup? I mean, if a founder is watching and they have a startup, would you advise them to go and get put their face out there, or that isn't really a good thing? What are your thoughts on that?
So early on, I was working as a consultant. I was the brand. I was the only person doing it. And then when you start to hire more people, then if it was you that kind of did the sales, you did everything, they expect always to work with you. And then as a founder, it was like, I don't want to be the founder because we are an agency. We built up Lunar Strategy, and I put in a lot of time and effort into PR, building up that brand, and putting Lunar Strategy as the core brand. And then when you have built up a brand, and you as a founder also have a brand, then I think you can kind of like get into a quite good position. Because a lot of agencies are also, let's say, the founder name, like Neil Patel and the top ones. They are like the founder, but they're too big, so you don't expect to work with the founder anymore, usually. So I think like there's some risks with it as well, because everybody will assume that they will work with you directly. And that's like the advantage of having a strong agency name, that they work with agency first. Mm-hmm. When it comes to like the ecosystems and crypto projects, then a lot of people say crypto is decentralized. We should not have a founder. I say no. Of course, you need a founder. You need a leader. You need somebody that says, this is where we want to go, that can lead them there. You see Ethereum, have Vitalik, Polkadot has Gavin, ICP got like Dom. Every single ecosystem, Cardano got this person, this got... All ecosystems have a founder, a leader that leads the development. They say, we go in this direction. The developers kind of like start to develop in that direction. The projects are developing in that direction. You need a leader to lead the project forward as well, which is super important. And you can see all the top ecosystems have a very strong founder that is opinionated and that have strong ideas and a strong vision, because otherwise it often turns into like competing ideas and then you don't get anything done. So I think it's very important for a project to have a strong founder that can outline the vision, outline where you want to go. But there's also some risks to it, because you don't want to get it too much conflated, because then it's...
Got it. So the summary is, yes, founder-led marketing can be good and can be bad when it comes to a service-based business, which means that if you're not too big enough, people would expect to work with you. And then if they see someone else on the sales call or during the execution, their expectations might not be met. But if you're too big, then it can be fun. But when it comes to projects, yes, like you said, like Tron has Sun, and when he launched that platform called Sun Meme, it went really viral because he was the one who did there. So I think it's good. Amazing. Before one thing I want to talk about is, like, before we wrap up, anonymity versus being doxxed. Because again, we do have a lot of projects that we work with that the founders are still doxxed. I was on a call earlier with JP Thor, the founder of Thorchain, and again, I was talking to him on how initially he was anonymous, and then he became docs, and how it has helped. So what are your thoughts on that? Let's say if you're building a project today as a founder, does putting your face out there helps, or it doesn't really matter as long as, because again, this is something I think about a lot.
Yeah. I'm more on the docs school. When we started off in 2019 as an agency, all of our competitors were just sitting with a camera off in meetings and were just hiding. You went to their website, they had like anonymous names and they had this and that, and it was a little bit like, what are you trying to hide, or what are you? So what we started with was as a policy, like in all sales calls and everything we do, we will have our face there. We have our name on our website. And the risks with it, we have also seen, because when you're in crypto, it's money involved, a lot of emotions, and there is some crazy people out there. So we have had some very like some attacks on different ways as well, which you don't like get if you are not doxed. So we always, of course, as an agency, we always do KYC with the products that we work with. We do work with undoxed founders as well, but we always want to do a KYC on our side to basically make sure that we have it covered from our end, because we are doxed, and then it doesn't make sense. So when it comes to founders, they also want to prefer to have you doxed. Why? Because you think more about how you spend the money, how you develop it, because it's also your own name at risk and on the line. And so I think as a founder, it's very important to be proud of what work that you do. And in 90% of the cases, you should be doxed, in my opinion. But otherwise,
Yeah, I'm of that opinion as well, that if someone is not willing to turn on their camera, I'm not willing to, work with them. Amazing. Like, last question before we wrap up. So if I was a founder today of a Web3 project, because again, I want to make this actionable, what can I do? Few things I can do, because again, I might be like, okay, I'm not able to acquire new users for the community. I'm not able to retain the existing people. I'm not able to, convince investors to give me money. So like, as a founder, you're all over the place. Any final words for them? Of hope, of practical advice that they can go and improve their project, and then where can they learn more about you, and how, if they do want to work with you, how they can do it? Because I think you mentioned you have Lunar Strategy and Lunar Lab. So quickly touch on that, please.
First thing what I did that has helped me tremendously is opinion articles and guest posts. Early on, I started to pitch a lot of stories to CoinDesk, Cointelegraph. They all said no. I don't want to write with but then I went to like the mid-tier and mid-tier publications, and a lot of them accepted the stories I was pitching. So I was pitching like thought leadership and opinion articles, and then when you have a few there, you can go after the top ones. And right now I regularly write stories in CoinDesk, in Blockworks, in Cointelegraph, and in all the tier 1 publications, and we have very good. So kick off with guest posts. Very important to state like your opinions and what you think the market is going, because it provides a lot of trust, free marketing, and it's a good way to start. Afterwards, podcast and Twitter Spaces, another very good way to start. Have a clean profile, add your profile image, start putting out some tweets, like and comment with some founders. You will very quickly be invited to Twitter Spaces, or if you join Twitter Spaces, request to jump up on the stage and discuss and have some good conversations. Those are two good parts. On the YouTube or on our website, we have a million different free guides that you can download, just marketing guides and tips and strategies. I'm very active on Twitter or X. Just reach out if you have any questions, and then I think those are my recommendations.
Can you talk more about Lunar Labs? Let's say if someone wants to become a part of your accelerator, how they can do it, like give them step by step. I'll add links in the description, but if you can give them a walkthrough of how they can do it.
Yeah, so we primarily work with AI and deep-in projects. Those are kind of the main areas right now we are focusing on and doubling down on, because we also have a big conference coming up in
I wanted to talk about that. Yeah, talk about that, please.
So we have in Lisbon, we have a conference called Crypto AI Con that will be the Europe's largest AI crypto conference. It will be maybe 1,500 people.
Wow.
We already have the main sponsors, speakers. We have probably like 10 tier 1 speakers in the crypto space already on board. And we are also going to there have a Crypto AI VC Alliance coming that will be having like a pitching competition for some startups that we're bringing there. So like AI deep in products that are looking for funding, we're going to support with them there. So if you have an AI or deep in project, feel free to reach out and shoot over a pitch deck, and happy to have a look at it. And if it makes sense, then we can see if we can come in as an incubator or just accelerator part before you go to the market.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tim, for coming on. Really insightful things. I mean, while you were talking, I was taking notes on what I can do and what I can share with other projects that I'm working. Amazing. So with that, we'll wrap up the episode. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next episode.